Welcome to the Business Greater Than You podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of men and women who have successfully transcended the frazzled solopreneur life and built productive teams with better lifestyle and income.
I'm Nelson Bars, the founder and owner of Utah Independent Mortgage Corp.
And I'm Liz Sears, founder and co-owner of My Utah Agents.
We're excited for you to listen, interact, and grow with us. So please share your comments below and let's get started.
All right, today's episode, we have a very, very special guest. I think this is really fun, actually, because this is at your company that we're filming this episode to interview you about your company.
Yeah,
how cool is
Jonathan Lauer from XYZ Marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You are co-owner
That's
of
right,
XYZ.
co-owner. Yep.
And we're in your studio. You built this place with your bare hands.
That's true. These fingers.
It was so fun coming to your grand opening here and just knowing kind of where you came from, because you just barely, like not that long ago, moved to the United States and learned English.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago I moved to America. It was Valentine's Day.
Oh my gosh.
As I came to America.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yep.
It is fun.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit. So what I know about your business, see, I probably met you, it's probably been almost 3 years ago. You must have been a freshie here in the U.S. because you were doing videography.
That's right.
And you were showing up at my office to film commercials, and you brought all the cameras with you. And you did a great job.
You're a one-man shop.
But I remember watching you and thinking, that looks exhausting.
Oh, it was so exhausting.
Packing all that gear around.
So much gear you have to lug around.
Yeah. What made you decide to start that, and what was it like in the beginning?
So I studied photography in college, and in Germany it's a little bit different. How you go to college, you can just bust it out as fast as possible. If you just take the tests, and if you pass the test, you're done. You're done, right? You get the credits and you're good to go. So I busted out college within 1 year. And in that year, I studied photography, but I also took an online course about filmmaking and videography, because I watched a movie. It's called The Theory of Everything. It's such a cool movie. Have you guys seen it?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
but
you
now
should
I'm gonna
totally watch it.
Okay.
So good. You should definitely watch it. It's the life story of Stephen Hawking. And in this movie, I was cheering for him. I was mad at him. I was furious. I was laughing and just going through so many different emotions in such a short time. And I was like, how is that possible? I mean, I watched Titanic, and I'm just mad at Rose that she wouldn't let Jack on the freaking door. But you know, it was such a different movie, and I looked into why am I feeling all these different emotions, and it really came down to the obviously answers, but like camera movement, music, the actors, right, the dialogue, and all these different things, right? And I was looking at photography, and I was like, I can't do that with photography. I can't take people on a journey, right? I mean, I always take the example of, like, you can always take a picture of a starving child in Africa, and it will be a sad picture, right? You will feel the story of that child. But what you can't tell is that right after you took that picture, that kid ran off and played soccer with his friends and had a blast, right? You can't communicate that part of the story. So I switched over to videography as soon as I graduated, basically. I just right before I graduated made that decision, and I was just like, well, I might as well graduate because I'm really close to it. But I haven't used my degree in photography particularly in a long, long time. So, but anyway, I moved to America then right after I graduated, like 2 months after I graduated, and started my business here. So I started Lightchild Media, and I was a videographer, and I actually met you guys at the BNI that we're part of.
By the way, for those that don't know, BNI stands for Business Network International. It's a great organization.
That's true. It's a networking. It's a networking group. It's really awesome. I really like it. But I think I was in America for 3 months. Like as soon as
wow. So we did.
How did you discover BNI and decide to join?
So I was looking for networking opportunities because, I mean, videography is a very interesting field in the sense of it's not a cheap expense to any business, right? So you need to trust the person that you're purchasing the videos from, right? So I thought, well, networking is going to be one of the best opportunities that I will be getting in order to get in front of people that I can build that trust with, that they would make that expense with me. So that's why I joined BNI, in order to get in front of more people.
Perfect.
Seems to have worked. I mean, you had lots of clientele, and
it worked really, really well.
Yeah. And what was the life like at that time? So at the time, I'm picturing you like all day filming, carrying your gear all over the valley, right?
Yeah.
And then going home and all night editing, and then getting up early to go to BNI and do marketing, right?
Yeah.
This is the frazzled solopreneur lifestyle.
Yeah.
I like to highlight it. I like to
throw some kids into the mix. Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not that way now, and we'll get there, right? But I would love to just learn about, I think we have a lot of photographers, a lot of entrepreneurs want to be a photographer or a videographer, right?
Yeah.
And it's like minimum wage work if you're not careful.
Oh yeah, so true. That is so true. I mean, my first year, I just recently looked at the numbers. My first year, I made $26,000, right?
And you were working full time.
Oh,
and I was working more than full time, right?
More than full time. That's like $10 an hour minus.
If even,
less,
if even, right? And then you take out the taxes of that. I mean, that number I don't even.
Plus, you had
say.
to buy all that. This is after you bought your equipment.
Yeah. All of my equipment, I always bought it. So I got a gig, and I would buy the equipment I needed to make that gig happen. So really, those $26,000 for the first year, I saw nothing of that.
It was almost like your second year in college.
Yeah, exactly.
You actually made a little.
And I'm not kidding. Like, I ate peanut butter jelly sandwiches for 1 year straight because I couldn't afford anything else. I didn't have money to go out.
You didn't mix in ramen or anything once in a while?
Yeah,
rice
every
and
now
beans?
and then. I mean, yes, but it all falls under that category of like, didn't get more
Rice
exciting
and
than peanut
beans.
butter and jelly sandwiches.
Come on, we can help you with your menu. It doesn't have to be peanut butter and jelly.
I felt actually pretty good about the peanut butter jelly
Yeah?
because that at least has something sweet in it.
Yeah, that's
Ramen
true.
will get pretty boring pretty quick. But yeah, it was hard. And like you throw in some kids into that mix, and it was just running around, running around. It was really crazy. And really, all that changed in the second years was I made more money, but did my life change? No, it was the exact same repetition, right? I didn't have any more freedom. I mean, freedom in the sense of like, do I want to work at 2 a.m. or at like 3 p.m., right? And that's about the only freedom I had. But it was just what I thought was the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
But
one shift I saw you make. Sorry, you had a question.
No,
I'll
go
let
ahead.
you ask it. But you started bringing people into your home. You finished a studio in your basement.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time that's brilliant because I'd seen you hauling your gear.
Yeah.
You don't get paid for that time, all the hauling and setup and takedown. And
It's very true.
Yep. So setting up a studio in your home just eliminated that travel time investment.
Yeah, and it was great. I really liked having it at my house. The issue I saw with that was just it was taking a toll on my family because like everybody has to be quiet at that time, or like nobody can be in the house at that time, and it was just taking a toll on my family. And really, the best decision I've ever made was to get an outside studio.
Yep. Which is where we are today.
That's right.
Yep.
So what came first, your first hire or the studio?
The studio.
The studio came first. So you committed to a lease
Yes.
when you were still running everything yourself.
Yeah, and that was a big risk in regards to taking on an expense that's going to be continued and that I'm locked in for at least 3 years, right? So it was a risk that I had to take, but it was a managed risk because I looked at my finances and I said, okay, well, I'm making enough money to where the rent is only taking up about 10%.
Perfect.
So.
Nice.
Great.
So at what point did you decide to hire someone and what caused you to make that decision?
So what caused me to make that decision? So time-wise, it was about when my business hit about the 2-year mark.
Okay.
And that's where I just noticed that, you know what? These are really not the most valuable activities I could be doing, especially editing. Editing as a videographer is considered a low-value activity, and I wanted to hire out those low-value activities. So I hired my first employee right around this 2-year mark, and how that happened is he just walked into the doors and was like, I'm looking for a job. And I was like, you know what? I do look for it. I do want an employee. Let me figure out the paperwork, but I'll hire you.
I have no idea
Oh my
how, but
goodness.
that sounds great.
That's exactly what happened. So I just called a bookkeeper and was like, how does this work? And she just did all the paperwork, and I was like,
Which is brilliant. Instead of Googling how does this work and doing it all by yourself.
I was like,
right?
okay, I might have to have to run payroll anyway, so I might as well pay someone $50 to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great.
Okay, so tell us about what they did for you and how that changed things for you.
Yeah, so first, my first employee just handled all the editing. they were just out editing, or not, they were not out. They were in the studio editing, and I would just start focusing more on marketing and doing the actual filming, because filming is a rather high value activity as a videographer. So that way I could focus more on making myself, and if we're honest, I'm making myself an employee that makes $200 an hour versus an average of $70 an hour, right? Yep. So that way I just eliminate those lower value activities. And yeah, so he was just editing.
Yep.
And he came to your home and sat in the studio?
No, he was in the studio.
This studio?
The studio
you hired him
first,
here.
and then, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Studio first, then him. And I love how you said that you retained the responsibility of doing the marketing, because there's a lot of people that always want to get that off their plate first, but that honestly can make or break a company.
It's very true. But I am lucky to where I love marketing. Yeah. Like, I know a lot of people don't like marketing. It has so many moving parts and there's so much to it. So I would say I'm lucky in the sense of I love marketing because it is all the moving parts and all the data. I'm a very data-driven person, and I love looking at the data and just making decisions based off of data. Yeah. And that's where I could do that all day and I would have fun.
Love that.
Versus other people would be like, that's the worst thing ever.
Data.
We've had a lot of guests we've interviewed about their first hire and who they hired and what role they had them do. And I would say it's pretty universal that the successful ones would hire someone to help with the back end, the fulfillment piece, right? Yeah. It's after the sale and it's delivery of the service or the product.
Yeah. And I remember when I would ask you multiple questions actually about my first hire, like who should I be hiring? And I have asked you so many questions about hiring. And I appreciate all the advice you've given me because it's very true. Yes, you should hire a back end first. Yeah.
Nelson's kind of smart.
He is smart.
I just learned that back end is where it really made a difference for me. And I wanted to hire a marketing person first. But I just, it'll swamp you. Great. What if it works? That's the worst case scenario, right?
More business for me to do the back end down.
That's right.
But, and I think a lot of people don't want to do the marketing, but a lot of the successful ones, we just interviewed Shannon. She's still doing the marketing for her company. She doesn't even recognize that she's doing it. Yeah. When I asked her who does the sales, she's talking about other people, but it's her, right? And I think, the business owner, the leader of the team, it's a natural fit for that person to be the one that's out there driving the sales. That's the highest value activity in many businesses, even more valuable than being behind the camera.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah. And by now I'm at the point where I've hired that out as well. Like,
great.
Yeah, I can say I haven't touched a camera in about 3 to 4 months. It's been great.
Do you know what's a really good indicator of someone who has a good team? When we ask them if they can come be in our podcast.
And they say yes.
Yeah, I can do that. A lot of them will say, I can't. I don't have time. I can't get away from the office. And then it's almost like self-elimination. Like, okay, well, then that probably wouldn't have been a good guest anyway, right? And here we are at your studio filming a podcast, and you have your team here filming us and editing and on the fly doing all this stuff. Every time we come in here, there's 6 or 7 people milling around doing work. And you're in and out, but you're not always here. And we know we're working in Jonathan's studio, but we don't even see you every time we come to film. That's true. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
So I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called The Hard Things About Hard Things. It's a really genius title, I think. But in this book, the lesson he is going over right now that I'm in the chapter in is like the worst mistake a SEO can make. A CEO is marketing. That's how much we do marketing. A CEO can make is making himself irreplaceable. Because if he leaves, then everything is going to fall apart. So I would 100% agree with that. Yeah, that's awesome. A big mistake.
So we got chronologically to your first hire. He's here in the studio editing. And then what? Who did you hire next?
Then I hired another editor. Okay. Because that's where I was doing the marketing, and I was getting more clients, right? And I was out filming, right? But in video production, you can think about it in a way of as soon as you're hired, you have about 1/10 of the project is pre-production. Then about 20% of it is filming. And then the rest of it, 70%, is editing. So it's a large portion. And in all honesty, you could have one videographer, one person that films, the camera person, can theoretically have 5 editors if he were to be constantly busy. Because there's so much editing, almost so much time that goes into the editing process. So I hired a second editor. My second person.
What's the training like for these editors? Tell us how you train them, onboard them.
So I don't know if this is the proper way.
You know what? It's working for you.
This might not be the answer.
If it's been working, it's the right way. We want to hear it.
Might not be the way, but it's a way.
So, so what we did, we have an online course that we depend on pretty heavily, and that online course teaches Premiere Pro, which is the editing software that we use. And so we give our employees the courses, and we give them as many resources as they want. If they ask, hey, I want to learn more about this and this resource, then we'll be like, okay, cool, we'll just purchase you that course, and we will support you in learning these things. But we heavily depend on online courses, and we just tell people, okay, just go through this course, and by the end of it, you should be able to do this job pretty well. And then I just come in and look over their shoulder, and whenever they are delivering a project, I just give feedback and say, okay, well, you see how you made this cut here? Well, because of how they're looking in the direction that they're looking, and then the next cut, how they're looking in the opposite direction, we have to place the cut at a different position. So I teach more the psychology one-on-one because it is my style, right? It's the style of our company. And that's what I taught them in person, but the software I just handed over to online course.
Do you have them watch you work at all at the beginning? Do you show them?
Yes. So the first few parts, I do have them just look over my shoulder, and that's still a big portion of how we currently train is just look over my shoulder or
just shadowing.
Just look like we just brought on a web designer, and he just looked over Adam's shoulder, who's my business partner. For a little bit, and I think the most important, the biggest part about how we train is very just throw them in, and then we'll just all learn through mistakes, right? So I think feedback has been the biggest portion of how we onboard.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. We've talked about that a little bit, about the process that we use in your team and my team for training, and we think in our world about a skills transfer pyramid, and we talk about like showing it first and having people watch us. I'm amazed at how much a good person can absorb just by watching, watching and taking notes and asking questions. And I have some coaches that want me to have a new employee watch for a whole month before they touch a keyboard or a phone. Yeah. That to me is very hard.
That's like, a lot of watching.
They get tired of watching, right? They want to get in the fray.
That is a lot of time watching.
So we have a whole month before they take the calls, but it's also mixing in classes and things like that.
Yeah.
But eventually then we flip seats, right? Just like you're talking about. Now they're doing and you're watching, right? And you're giving feedback and you're doing that. Yeah. And that's the second level. So, I mean, it's not as formal, but I can see that you're doing
the same. It's definitely not as formal, but we have been very lucky in regards to hiring the people who are innovative, and they're incredibly fast to adapt. Like, for example, our most recent hire, Alex, our website designer, you have to tell him something once, and he just implements it from there on out in anything. You don't have to mention something twice. And I've been just loving that. So, but that's with all of our employees. We just have very, very innovative people who are really quick to adapt.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you made any bad hires?
Yes. How much am I legally allowed to talk about this here?
Well, his name is
no
Franklin.
Names. No names, but lots of detail. You can legally do that.
Okay. That's, I think, how it works. Yeah, we've made a bad hire. And I think it was just because I needed the help right away. And I should have waited a little longer to find the right person. But it was just so pressing in time that I had deadlines that needed to be done, and I couldn't do them by myself. So I hired this person that in the long end didn't work out.
So what were some either red flags that you missed or some steps that you didn't take, or share so other people can learn from your School of Hard Knocks?
So some of the red flags that I noticed were performance, right? It would take him longer than any of our other employees to finish something. By the end of the day, it was like, did he truly make a difference today? And most days I could say no.
Wow.
If he would have not shown up, nothing would have been different. So those, I think that if you can see an employee where you ask yourself that question, is like, has he made any difference in our company today? And the answer is no, then I think that's definitely a red flag that needs to be immediately addressed.
Yep.
I think it seems that one mistake that you describe is just waiting until
the right person.
It was an emergency to get into the mode of hiring. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard to hire early enough that you can give them that low stress training period, that time to get up to speed. And you also want more than one option, right? You want to be able to interview and have 3 great people to pick from.
That's right.
And I think all of that takes pre-planning and a little bit of vision and risk taking, right? It's like, I think we're going to need them by summer, so let's start interviewing now at spring, and I do this a lot in my office where we think we're going to need someone next summer, so let's start the recruiting process. Let's do some interviews. Doesn't mean I'm going to hire anybody, but I want to have some people on the bench, some people ready to come into the game when we need them, and not start interviewing when we're desperate.
Right.
Right.
Yep, that whole slow to hire, quick to fire.
Yeah.
Instead of in reverse, quick to hire, slow to fire.
Yeah.
That's been my problem sometimes.
Yeah. Oh. It's hard.
So how did you handle it?
So, I don't think I handled it really well.
Leadership. What, you weren't a perfect leader right out the gate?
I wasn't surprised, but so I think I was trying to make it work. I was just trying to make it work, trying to give the training, trying to teach, trying to be a resource for this person, and I was trying to force it to work, and it just wasn't working. So I think it was after 3 months of consecutively saying this person didn't make a difference in my company, that's where we let him go. And I just had a conversation with him. It was like, this is not working. So we had a few conversations obviously in between, but that we had like documented papers and like, your performance isn't where it is and stuff like that. But then 3 months after 3 months of again answering that question, he didn't make a difference in my company, and that's where we decided to let him go.
Yep.
Sounds like a long 3 months.
I know.
Painful.
It shouldn't have taken 3 months looking back. It's like there was too many red flags. There was red flags all over in those 3 months. So.
And the day you actually decided to pull the trigger and let him go, how did it go?
I cried. But
it's because you care about people.
I do care about people. It went well in the sense of I felt relief, and my company was better, and like I think it improved my work culture. I don't know how well it went for him. He cried too, but I think it didn't go too well for him. So.
Yeah. Well, you can't want somebody's success more than they want it.
That's true.
And so if you were sensing that as you were going, that you were trying to make it work. You're trying to help them be successful.
I really was. But you can't force people to their luck, right?
No, you can't.
Okay. So keep talking us through the story, because I know we didn't get to the end of the row. You have a business partner now, right? Yeah. You have more on your team than just 2 editors. So tell us more.
Did you wait really quick? When did you bring in the business partner?
So let's see, 2.5 years in.
And how did that work?
Yes. Yeah. So about, I think it was September of last year. So about 6 to 7 months ago, that's where I decided to open another company. And what happened was that my company was growing, and really what was happening is that we had all these people spending lots of money on videos, and then they wouldn't do anything with the videos. And I was like, well, they're not going to come back. They're not going to be return customers.
There's no value.
There's no return, right? There's no return on their investment because there's no implementation.
I may have been one of those customers.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's funny. But what I was doing, I was referring these customers to another person, which is Adam, and he had a company called XYZ Marketing, and he does websites and SEO and ads. So I was referring these people to him because if they can see that video made an impact in their business, they will come back, right? So I was looking at it as more of a selfish way, and I was like,
smart.
Well, they will come back for more videos if they see the value of videos, right?
Yep.
So I would refer them, and then Adam would do the same thing. He would make websites and would do SEO and drive traffic to those websites, and nothing would happen to these companies because there was no conversion factor, right?
There's no video.
Yeah. Exactly. So we were just referring business to each other so much that we're like, well, this keeps happening and happening. Well, how about we talk about merging this. So we talked about it, and we quickly realized that there's a way higher potential of growing a larger company, because I built Lightchild Media to a factor where it was making about $250,000, right? And it was really at its limit. It was like, I mean, yes, I could hire probably more videographers and do all of that, but like I would have to increase my overhead by so much that my profit margin would have stayed the same. And I was like,
why the risk?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, right? So I looked into how can I grow this bigger, and that really was merging our two companies was the step, because we could bring on higher clients, larger clients. We could bring on higher, bigger projects, right? So that's what we decided to do. We ended up forming another company, XYZ Marketing, and now we're 50-50 partners in that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it was a great move.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So you hired your first editor. You hired your second editor. Is that when you teamed up?
So, yes, it was when we started to team up. And then he had an employee, an SEO expert, and then we merged. We hired another videographer. We hired a writer.
Question for you really quick, because this kind of happened with us, is that when we merged and we brought our employees with us, I swear I was treated a little bit like the stepmom that they didn't know if they should like, and vice versa. So did you feel like a stepdad to his employees, or did it come over okay?
He's good at that. He's the stepdad at home.
I'm already a stepdad at home.
You already know how to do that.
No, I don't think that I felt that way at all. I think it went pretty well. I think they
good merger growth for all of you.
Yeah,
awesome.
That went pretty well. I couldn't pinpoint why it went well or not. It just luckily did.
Nice.
But yeah, so we merged companies. We brought on another videographer. We brought on another writer. And then we brought on a social media expert. And then we brought on another web designer.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how many total do you have now? The two of you plus?
So the two of us, and then a team of 7.
Wow.
Team of 7. Are they all full-time salary, or some of them commission only, 1099? How do you?
So they're all full employees, W-4. 2. That's right.
A lot of W-4. You give them a W-2.
Right.
Same thing.
Again, the bookkeeper does all of that. But yeah, they're all W-2s. We have 2 part-time, and then the rest is full-time.
Okay.
Nice.
Very good.
Yeah.
Can you contrast for us your life, your lifestyle, your balance now compared to, say, a year ago? Tell us how it's changed.
So I wish I could give the amazing answer of like, oh, it's way better. I think I have more freedom in the sense of like, can I go somewhere really quick and like do something? Yes, I can definitely do that. Like if my son is sick and the school calls and I can go pick him up, that's not a problem, right? But in regards to working, I think I still work the same amount, and because our business has grown so fast that now I'm playing catch up with building the systems, making sure that employee handbooks are there, right? Like I'm building the culture of the company. So am I working less? No. I work basically the same amount of hours. But I think my happiness is the biggest factor. Like I'm working on the things that make me happy, right? Like again, I'm comfortable with data and I love data. So I'm working on the things I want to work on versus like I hate editing. I just hate editing. So I would again, it's 70% of a project. So it takes up so much of my time, and now I don't have to do that. It frees me up to do things that I want to do.
I love it. Yeah.
Nice. You talked about building the culture. How are you doing that? And what is your culture?
I'm totally the wrong person to ask because it's pretty relaxed. We are.
That's not a bad thing though, because every single business has its own pulse and culture and pace and everything.
That's very true. So we love. We understand that marketing really, a lot of people look at it and it's like this process-driven thing, right? Yeah. But if for example an ad doesn't work or a marketing strategy does not work, it's because of the creative. It's not, most of the part, it's not because of the system it's following. It's because of the creative aspect of it. Like for example, click-through rates are all creative-driven. Like regardless of what system you have in place, it will always be creative-driven. So we love to embrace the creativity with our employees. For example, we say, you can come whenever you want. If you're the most creative at 5 a.m., feel free to come in at 5 a.m. You know,
yeah.
If you feel the most creative at 5 p.m., show up at 5. It's totally cool. Obviously, we all have deadlines, and deadlines are important. So when deadlines are there, I'm sorry, but that has to go out the window, and we have to finish what we need to finish. But when we're all good on deadlines, then you can come in whenever you want. You can take a break whenever you want. We have, I feel guilty for saying this, but we have a TV that we have just Smash Bros at all times ready.
Oh my gosh, Smash Bros is hilarious.
We play Smash Bros here quite often, just to give us a creative break.
I think that's required in a marketing agency. I think
right?
It has to be video games.
You know, it's funny how your brain sometimes just needs to get into a space that you control and you know all of the parameters to, and it's a challenge. But it's still like you can know what to expect, and it's fun and things like that, and then just getting your brain to move down that path.
Yeah. So we play Smash Bros as an office quite often, and just in order to give ourselves a little break, or just whenever we had a stressful week, just so we can all wind down a little bit, and just that way
That's awesome.
we have people that want to work here, right? I'm pretty confident in saying that every one of our employees likes working here, right? So that's one of the biggest things we do. We just embrace the creativity of everybody and their creative process. Everybody has a different creative process. If you need to go out for a walk in order to be inspired, definitely do so. We have a pond right next to our studio, and we have one of our employees that in the summer he goes out fishing just whenever he needs a break, right? And I think it's just it's a very relaxed kind of vibe until deadlines are due.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That sounds like a nightmare to me. I don't know how I would exist in that kind of world.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was the employee, I'd be fine. But
right.
Especially you guys do have constantly projects that need to be worked on. But I guess maybe it's just a level of trust.
Oh, definitely. We trust our employees a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and they're very dependable. Every single one of them is very, very dependable.
All right. So in your growth of your company, what's your next kind of improvement focus or growth focus that you have right now?
Yeah. So right now it's all about putting systems into place so we can improve efficiency. And then the next part is going to be sales. Sales, just focusing on sales.
Focusing on sales, or are you going to hire someone that just does sales?
Probably both.
Have you thought about that?
Both. Yeah, we've talked about it multiple times. I feel like I've been so busy, and again, this is not the answer I would like to give. I want to give a different answer, but I just feel like I've been so busy with sales that I haven't had time to look for a salesperson. Yep. It's kind of like I understand I have to sharpen my saw, but I'm so busy cutting down trees that I can't sharpen the saw. So again, I'm still stuck in that little bit of a that business owner perspective and like still like the job kind of a thing. But I'm trying to remove myself, and that's what sales would be fixing. Because again, in business, I always say like 95% of business problems are sales problems, because how many problems could you fix with more money?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So 95% of problems are money problems. So that's why we want to improve sales, so that way we can fix the other problems with money instead of time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I can relate to where you're at, because it's like, I think Stephen R. Covey uses this in his book about you're in a pit and you're getting attacked by alligators and you need to use your shovel to dig a channel out of the pit, but you can't because you're using your shovel to hit the alligators.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, this is the quadrant 2 versus quadrant 1. It's urgent and important, and that's where you live, right? And trying to get to a point. This is where I think every business owner wants to spend more time in the important and not urgent phase. Yes. And, extricating yourself. We used that word last episode too. Yeah. Because we talked to Shannon, who never ended up in the pit. She started out of the pit from the very beginning.
Oh, that's awesome.
But people like you and me, I think most entrepreneurs build a business around themselves and try to slowly take pieces away that they're doing. And it's a struggle. It is long, a patient. But you're doing a great job of it. Look at how many things you've already offloaded from your shoulders.
It's been great. It's been really, really great.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I like it.
Good.
So if you had a piece of advice to give to your team or something you wanted to say to them, what would that be?
Oh, to my employees?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because they're listening. They're all
I know they'll be editing.
They're like right over there.
They listen to this part about 6 times. I just, the piece of advice I would give, I think it's more in regards to anybody, is that as you build yourself, life is going to become so much easier. I think there's a saying, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but if you make life hard, life becomes easy. And if you try to live through life easily, life will become hard. And I think that's a lot with everything. Like, personal development is so important. And as you are putting yourself into a growth zone, yes, there is no comfort, but you will grow so much more. And I've always said that ever since I've been 18. I always said there's no growth in the comfort zone, and there's no comfort in the growth zone. And I think that is so hugely important to understand in life. Coming from Germany, our culture is very different in regards to work and personal development, and like just being willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations to accomplish something. It's very ingrained in our culture. So when I came to America, it was very different for me to see that people aren't like trying to stay in the comfort zone as much as possible, right? So I would say just seek discomfort, seek growth.
I love that. That's really good advice.
I love that. Or at least don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Don't be afraid of it.
Go towards it and embrace the fact that it's going to be part of your growth. And yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right. Are you ready for our rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
Rapid fire.
Let's do it.
Okay. We've got a list of 5 questions here, and we ask this of every podcast guest, and we got to get through them in 1 minute. So I'll try to keep my mouth shut. Okay. Number 1, what is
you're already failing. You didn't keep your mouth shut.
In between questions. I'll keep my mouth shut after you say your very interesting answers. I will not get excited about them.
Sounds good.
It's going to be tough for us. Okay.
Number 1, what is your favorite podcast?
Follow Him. It's a podcast about the scriptures, and this year it's going to go through the Bible. So.
Very cool. What is your favorite business book?
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Classic.
Oh, an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
How many hours a day do you work, and how many hours a day do you want to work?
Currently, I work all the hours of the day. No,
all the hours.
I would say about 8 to 9 hours a day, and I would like to work about 3.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds nice. Who do you really look up to in the business world as a role model? And why?
Tough question. Elon Musk. I love Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You kind of got an Elon Musk vibe a little bit. I don't know what it is.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not. Depending on how you view Elon Musk.
And why?
I think he's just kind of the no BS kind of guy, and just does what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And what is the one best piece of advice you can share with our audience about growing a team, growing a business?
Does this one have to be a minute?
No.
You can go for it.
Good. Okay, this one would be a short one. So there is a principle that I just recently learned about, and that's called drop and give me 20. And it comes from the military, right? Like you have to be able to, in order to be in the military, you have to be at any given point be able to drop and do 20 push-ups, right? And until you're at that point, you don't really have a place in the military, right? Unless you can, if that is one of the few requirements you need to be able to do in the military. And I think it's the same in the business world. If you are not able to drop and give me 20, then you don't really have the proper abilities to be in business and at the position you want to be at. For example, if you want to be graded being on camera, well, you have to drop and give me 20 videos, right? Until you've done the 20 videos, you don't really have the position to talk about videos at all and give your feedback about videos because you haven't done it enough in order to make a decision in that space. If you haven't done, I'd say worked with at least 20 clients, again, you don't really understand quite the processes yet behind working with businesses. So just if you get frustrated in business, just understand all you have to accomplish is reach the 20. And then you will be way better off, and you will be in a way more comfortable position. You'll be not as frustrated anymore. Just understand it will only take 20 until I understand how this works. So
I love it. And carrying the analogy further, like drop and give me 20 becomes pretty easy once you've been in the military for a while and you've been doing that a lot.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Because like if I were to now tell you guys, like, would you be able to handle 20 more clients right now?
Yeah.
Totally, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Versus
sounds great.
Versus when you guys started, right? You're like 20 clients right now.
How would I handle it?
Yeah, exactly, right? But now you have the systems in place and everything to handle 20 more clients.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you. I would love to have a chance to check in with you again in the future, maybe in 6 to 12 months. I know you're going through huge transitions right now. You're putting together all kinds of things, and sounds like you're well on your way to the dreams that you have. But maybe down the road we can check in again and see how everything's gone.
I love that. That'd be great.
Perfect.
How can people get a hold of you if they'd like to work with your company?
Oh, yeah. So you can look on our website. That's xyzmarketing.xyz. And then you can just email me personally at j@xyzmarketing.xyz. And cool. I did the J because I've never had a short email in my life. Because
so
my name
literally
is Jonathan.
just the letter J.
Yeah, it's
not
just
J-A-Y. Just J.
It's just J. Because I've never had a short email. And I was like, I want a short email.
XYZmarketing.xyz, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, thank you very much, Jonathan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Business Greater Than You podcast with Nelson Bars and Liz Sears. Our mission is to help lenders and agents like you.
If you're either already a full-time realtor or looking to become one, and you desire to be highly successful, if you are both a learner and a doer, a hard worker and a total team player, we would love to chat with you about joining our team. Visit us at businessgreaterthanyou.com.
If you're a loan officer or would like to be one, we have a path to help you learn the business and develop the skills needed to lead a high-performance origination team for better income and lifestyle.
And lastly, if you would like to work with either of us, we would love your business.
Do you have a question for a future show? Would you like to be considered as a guest on our show? If so, please call or text our listener line at 801-871-9130.